We're Terry and Mary.
I would have laughed at the guy I am today.
And today we're talking to Jonathan Troen.
Look, I was a raging punk rocker in those days.
Come along.
I help people find the joy inside of themselves so that they can move from self-loathing to self-love and enjoy their life, business, bank account, all at the same time. My program is the Self-Love Revolution. I spent 20 years in the entertainment business. And, I was interviewing the biggest stars in the world. I lived 3 blocks from the beach. I could see the sun set out my window. And it was an amazing life. And I'm not saying I didn't enjoy things. I did. But when I got home at night alone, I was the biggest bully to myself. I was not enjoying my life. I was not happy. I was beating myself up. It didn't matter how many successes I had that day, who I interviewed, how great it went. I would find everything that went wrong. Even if it didn't go wrong, I'd make it up. I created the life I thought I kind of wanted. Then I wasn't happy. So I'm like, well, okay, what is wrong with me? So then I went on a journey to find out what was wrong with me. And, there were some other, we can go into all the stories, but there were stories and aha moments along the way. But the biggest discovery I had was that there was nothing wrong with me.
There.
I'm like, what?
Are you kidding?
Because I spent, my whole life comparing myself to other people and thinking, well, when I get there and look at that person and when I achieve that, then I can be happy. And, and then I might get there like, oh, wow, I'm doing it. Oh, well, yeah, but look at that person. They're more successful than you are. So, well, when you get there, then you'll be happy. And, when you get the new car, you'll be happy. So I got a new car. Well, when you get closer to the beach, you'll be happy. So I got, 3 blocks from the beach. And like, wait a minute, I'm getting all the stuff. So I had to realize, there's nothing wrong with me. I don't have to be all those other people. I discovered that all those other people actually were thinking the same thing as I was. That they're not successful enough. Like, no matter where you are in the game, we're all just comparing ourselves to other people having a miserable time doing it. I am a huge Kurt Vonnegut fan. I love his writing. He wrote a book called The Galapagos, and that made me want to go to the Galapagos. I didn't know it would be like that. Of course, you learn the story of Darwin, and that's where the theory of evolution came, when he saw the different species and how they evolved on different islands. And look, it's amazing to really witness it once you're there. Like you see, there was a tree on one of the islands, and the bottom part evolved to have pure bark because the animals, the tortoises, would eat that part of it. So that tree on that island evolved to protect itself from that eating, whereas the trees on other islands didn't do that if they didn't have the animals that would eat them. And it was amazing to actually witness the differences of the same species on different islands. So how did I get there? So I read that book, and you learn about Darwin, and you go, hey, and I had a couple weeks. A buddy of mine also had, we were just sharing, a dear friend of mine. He's like, he wanted to go to the Galapagos as well. It was originally supposed to be 3 of us, but one of the guys decided not to do it. So the 2 of us were in, and it's like, let's go to the Galapagos. It was early 2000s. So, the internet was around, but there wasn't so much connectivity. So when you went to the Galapagos Islands, there wasn't a cell phone working, or, I guess you could have had a satellite something, but everyone wasn't carrying around satellite phones or things like that. So I had no email, no phone calls, in the middle of a boat, in the middle of the ocean, for 11 days.
Wow.
You get to go in and you get to experience the world the way it was meant to be, the way it was created, seeing different species interact with each other, and not always friendly. Hey, Everyone that's been there. Those frigate birds, not too friendly to the other creatures there. But you're seeing just nature in its pure form, which I had never seen before. Because I live in cities, and when I would travel, I went to beaches and things like that. But you travel to cities, go around Europe and, London, Madrid, and, Berlin, all this kind of stuff. So to be there with just nature, wow. Like that was a beautiful, heart-opening, mind-opening experience. Like why are we doing what we do and making ourselves suffer so much when all we need to do is sit there like the birds? I don't focus on the past so much anymore. I don't ignore it. I'm not saying it didn't exist, but joy is not lived in the past. So, I went there to show my son, some pictures of nature. And I found some pictures of another trip. This was actually a work trip I went on. I did a documentary on the polar bears. So I was pulling out some pictures of the polar bears to show him, what polar bears really were. So the beauty of nature and great memories. But I also know now, like I used to look at pictures to re-experience joy, but joy can't be re-experienced. So then you have this longing, like if only I were there now, then I would be happy. And that's what a lot of people sometimes do when they do look at old pictures, old stories. It's like, oh, if only I were in that situation now. But today's situation is different than then. You never can relive a situation. Even if I went back to the Galapagos, it wouldn't be the same, right? Did you ever have a great trip or something, and then you said, I got to go there again, and you went back there, and then it just wasn't the same? Has that ever happened to you? We postpone happiness for decades. And then we look back on things that happened a year ago when we looked at ourselves, didn't think we were looking good, and go, oh, if only I were back there, I'd be happy.
Yes.
Joy only exists right now in this moment. That's it. There's no living joy in the past. You can remember the past and experience joy, but the joy is now. You certainly don't have joy in the future. It doesn't exist. No past, no future. So if you want to experience joy, happiness, bliss, however you want to call it, you got one option. Now, this moment.
Now.
Be present. Yes.
I had a surgery and there were complications, let's just say, with the surgery. So I did a year of physical therapy. And after a year of physical therapy, insurance kicked me off. And back in those days, I didn't know how to navigate insurance in the medical system. So they said, I'm kicked out. Okay, I have to listen to them. And so the physical therapist on our last day said, well, go try yoga. Maybe that'll help you. Bye-bye.
Wow.
I went to a class and met the teacher who changed my life. Her name is Chris Stein. And she's like my second mother. She knows she's my second mother, gave me a whole new birth. And that's when things began to change for me. I'm like, you can live joy. Like I remember my first yoga class. I was never a huge drinker or a huge smoker of pot, but I did in those days. And I remember after my first yoga class, and I felt like I had smoked a lot of pot. And I said, you can have this feeling of being stoned without smoking?
Wow.
This is phenomenal. I'm coming back. Like, that's really what it was. I'm coming back and I'm getting stoned here. Of course, that was just the beginning. And then it just opened up the door. The more I went, my body changed. My mind changed. I don't do it to get stoned anymore. I just feel great. I haven't had pot in years. I will never say I quit or anything like that. I didn't quit.
Yeah.
I just don't need it. Like, my body doesn't ask for it. And I'm like, okay, this is good. Yoga. And that opened the door to a new way of living. And then later on, I learned some of the coaching. I got trained in some of these coaching techniques, right? I mean, first for myself and then learned how to do it. And I learned about the voices in your head and the inner critic, the saboteurs. I now have the 13 saboteurs that I teach. I learned about the powerful voices in your head. We have a whole inner team, right? The future self, the adventurous one, the childlike one, the intuitive one. We got these people that are just championing our success if we know how to access them. The 13 saboteurs, like the inner judge and the perfectionist, the procrastinator, the people pleaser, the victim, they have loud voices. They're going to get your attention. Yeah. But these other ones, the future self, the intuitive one, they're very soft. But when you learn how to connect with them, it's like going to the gym and building muscle. So the muscles of the inner critics, strong. The muscles of the inner guide, the inner team, not so strong right now. But you can strengthen. You can go to the gym in your mind and connect with them and empower them. And like the amazing thing is, then they tell you what to do. It's like when I don't want to, what should I do now? I'm confused. I have a to-do list. Don't have a to-do. I do not have a to-do list. I got rid of that. I have a new list, but I have a list of 1,000 things to do. What should I do? My mind. All I have to do is, okay, good spirit's the name of my future self. Okay, good spirit. What should I do? Tells me. Like instantly, there's never a moment of any day where if I choose to get the answer, sometimes I don't like the answer. I don't want to do that. But he's always right. I have the answer for exactly what I am supposed to do to get me to have joy now, and to get me to where I want to go as well. Any moment of every day. So it's really powerful when you begin to have these tools and live with these tools. It's just a new way of living. So yoga, that was my first introduction. That opened up the door to it, because before that, I would just laugh in your face, right? Younger years, no. I was a punk rocker. I was happy, raging against the world, thinking the world was to blame for all my problems, and yelling at government and corporations to fix it. Yeah. That's what we did as punk rockers. Yeah. So yoga opened up the door to a new way of living. And then I learned about the coaching stuff, applied it to my life. My first career was radio. And I remember I decided to go into radio when I was in junior high. And I was more the picked on kid in school. So, by the way, bullies and the victims picked on kids have the same problem, the story in their head. They just deal with it a different way. The bully says, I'm not good enough, so I'm going to pick on someone else. The victim says, I'm not good enough, and I'll somehow allow myself to be picked on, or I just won't stand up, or whatever it is. But it's still the same story of I'm not good enough. So I was not good enough, bad day at school. And I went home, I turned on the radio. I love music. I've always loved music. I turned on the radio and a song came on. I don't know what it was, but a song came on. The DJ said something and I had a smile on my face. And I said, that's what I want to do with my life. Help bring a smile to people's faces. But to me, it was through radio. And then later on through the entertainment business, right? So I did work in radio. I had one of the first online music companies. We broadcast concerts. The hugest bands in the world, the smallest bands in the world. It was phenomenal. I got to interview all these bands, my idols, and then bring that out to everyone. It was really cool. Now that evolved into television. And while I loved some of the shows I was producing in television, I didn't love all of them. And I'm going to kind of bite the hand that feeds me or fed me, maybe. And so I do so with some love and affection too, because I enjoy my time there, and I certainly enjoyed the people there. I worked for E! Entertainment for a while. Beautiful people there. They make good stuff, but I had difficulty with some of the shows that I was creating, because a lot of it, we also had to find the dirt on people. Yes. And pick things out of people. Yeah. The last show I produced for them was a show called Forbes Richest or Wealthiest Women in Hollywood. Okay, yeah. And it was all the great things about Oprah and Judge Judy and all these people. But to me, as I'm putting it together, I'm like, we're just telling people they're not good enough because they can't knock on someone's door in Santa Barbara and say, I want to buy your house. And when they say no, you say, yes, I'm buying your house. Here's $50 million. There you go. I mean, that's, I don't know if that's the exact price, but that's how Oprah got her. That's the story of Oprah's house in Santa Barbara. And I can't do that, and others can't do that. So to me, the message really was not celebrating Oprah, who huge fan of.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Interview me, Oprah, please.
We all.
So and I even have great respect for Judge Judy. I love Ellen. Love all these people.
Yeah.
Yet the story we seem to be telling was, you're not good enough because you don't live like these people live. And that tore at me. So I was not bringing a smile to people's faces. I felt I was hurting people. Now, I only can say this looking back. As I went through this journey, I didn't know what I was going through. But what I do now is I help people find the joy inside of themselves, right? Not in the past, not in the future. It's not from landing your right job. It's not from your relationship. It's not from any of those. It's coming from inside of you. Now, when it comes from inside of you, all those things might become better.
Yeah.
Right? It's very possible. But if you think that job will make you happy, sorry, unlikely to happen. It's got to come from inside of you first. If you think the money will make you happy, look, 20 years in Hollywood, know a lot of rich people, many who are happy, many who are unhappy.
Yes.
Poor people too, many who are happy, many who are unhappy. I can tell you, money in the bank is not the common denominator of happiness. It comes from somewhere else. So what I do now is help people find the joy inside of themselves, which, if you splice those words together, is very similar to helping people put a smile on their face, right? I didn't know what values were, but along the way, I lost my values. My job, when I went into television, my job stopped becoming bringing a smile to people's faces. It became climbing the ladder, right? Wow. So producer to supervisor, producer, and all up that ladder and making more money. So how do I get a better title? How do I make more money so that I can impress more people outside of me? That was my goal, to impress more people. I was single at the time. We had to impress people, because only by impressing people could I get the right relationship, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. That was the story. I'm back to the values now. Now it's a little different, because then my goal was to put a smile on people's faces by, first radio, playing music or things like that. It evolved into TV. Now I have a different understanding. So it's helping people find the joy inside of them. I can't put that smile on your face, but I can teach you where it is inside of you so that you can experience it right now in this moment. And that can have amazing benefits to your life, your business, your bank account, to all of it. But it comes from within you. But for me, all I'm doing now is I'm back to living my values, which I had forgotten along the way. Yeah. And a lot of us forget along the way as we seek to climb that corporate ladder and impress other people. A mom calls me, or she called our yoga studio actually and said, I want yoga for my son. He's graduating high school, going to college. I want yoga for my son. And I saw you guys do coaching. I think that's going to be helpful because he's really anxious about stuff. We just had a year pandemic, right? Yeah. And now I don't coach people in person. I haven't coached people in person in years. I find that it's powerful when you actually don't see someone, because we take off our masks. But she said, I think for this, it's important for him to be in person, and he wants the yoga side too. And I don't do yoga privates anymore. I only teach yoga classes. So I had a sit. I go, okay, 18-year-old kid wants private yoga. I don't teach private yoga. And he wants coaching. He wants it in person. It's not really what I do either. I spoke to someone else and it wasn't going to be a good fit for them. So I'm like, okay, this is up to me. Either I help this guy or not. And not that I don't have a problem saying no, but I said, okay, what values are honored? I go, okay, good spirit. What do I do here? This isn't what I do. What do I do? And he said Tuesday, Thursdays, right after your group class, set it up. I'm like, really? But that's when I usually take care of those other things. And he said, so why are you doing those other things? So that you can help people. And I go, oh, yeah, you're right. So now I'm going to,
Yes.
I have my answer. We have a society that's based on productivity.
Yes.
And we're brought up and we measure productivity. So what we need to begin to do instead is measure our values. So even when you're doing something, like this call that we're doing, this podcast, tonight I will celebrate my values honored. But when I think about this, I won't think about the productivity of having done another podcast. And I will think about the value of sharing love and kindness. At the end of the day, you're measuring productivity, you'll be forced into a productive world. When you measure your values, here's the bottom line on values. Living a life honoring your values is a fulfilling life, period.
Beautiful.
Living a life not honoring your values or honoring someone else's values, parents, teachers, bosses, is an unfulfilling life.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that. You want a fulfilling life, you must honor your values. You get what you measure. So at the end of the day, I measure how many opportunities did I have to honor my values? How many times did I take advantage of that opportunity to honor those values? And then bonus point, it's just a side effect bonus, is that when you do that, you're more productive. So I spent 20 years in LA, got married, and we got pregnant, right? Well, I didn't really do that work, but I like to think that the unit of we got pregnant, and so my wife's family lived out here in Austin. So she wanted to be closer to family. It was really as simple as that. It's interesting because when we create joy from the inside, I can live anywhere now and be happy.
Mm-hmm.
In the old days, now I love the beach and I'd be happy to live near a beach again. But I felt I needed to live near a beach. That gave me solace. That made me happy. Now, there are actually proven chemical reactions between the body and the salt water that shows benefits of the ocean. I'm not going to discount any of those. They're really important. But I needed that. Like when I was feeling down, I went to the beach.
Mm-hmm.
I was 3 blocks from it. I just walked there and I go, okay, now I'm calm. Now I'm okay.
Mm-hmm.
I can do that anywhere now. I can be here in Austin. I can be in LA. I can be in the boondocks. I can be anywhere because it comes from in here. And I know that now. In outer circumstances, they might make it easier or more difficult. I grant you that. But in the end, it comes from in here. So Austin, no problem. And it's great here. I love it here. The people are amazing here. There's great television out there, but I wasn't producing those shows and I didn't have the confidence to make sure I was. I'm a very anti-zoo person. I don't believe in zoos.
Yeah.
We don't have to get a whole political debate here, but I'm just sharing my values. I don't believe in zoos. I don't believe in animals like that, large animals in captivity. But I did a show called Ultimate Zoo where I went around traveling to the best zoos in the country, highlighting their places. Why? Because someone paid me to do it so that I could pay rent, because that's what I was supposed to do. I was supposed to accept money from others, do what they wanted me to do, make them happy. And so I could pay my rent. So against my values. I wouldn't do that job today. I would say no to it because it's against my values. And I would have the confidence, which I didn't have back then. Yeah. See, I got lost, and most people get lost following the career ladder and forgetting the values. That's what the midlife crisis is. You didn't honor your values. And you did what you were told. You were told that if you work long enough, you'll be successful. If you're successful for long enough, then you'll be happy. They don't teach us values as kids. That needs to be the lesson in school. We need values lessons. Life-changing, powerful. You'll never look back and live your life the same way again. And when you look at those old pictures, bringing it back, you won't need to say, oh, I wish I were there. You might say, I had a great time where I was there. And you might go, oh, I learned this from that experience. But you'll never say, I wish I were there, because the only place you'll want to be is right here.
You are absolutely wonderful. And I thank you so much.
Thank you.